The 2024 US presidential election has been noticeably quiet on one key issue: China. Foreign policy often takes a back seat during election cycles. This year is no different. The ongoing conflict in Gaza has further diverted attention away from China. President Biden's China policies have enjoyed some bipartisan support. The US-China relationship is arguably the most consequential bilateral relationship in the world. It has profound implications for global trade, security, and governance. The absence of a substantial debate on China policy is a disservice to the American people. The muted debate on China is partly due to pressing domestic issues. The US economy faces challenges like inflation and potential recession. Social issues such as healthcare and gun control remain highly divisive. These domestic concerns naturally occupy the forefront of voters' minds. The ongoing conflict in Gaza has also demanded significant attention. This humanitarian crisis has triggered international outcry and diplomatic efforts. It serves as a stark reminder of the volatile geopolitical landscape. The urgency of this situation has understandably overshadowed other foreign policy concerns, including China. While understandable, this focus on immediate crises should not completely eclipse long-term strategic challenges. China's growing economic and military might, coupled with its assertive foreign policy, presents a significant challenge to the existing world order. Failing to adequately address the China question now could have serious consequences for the US in the years to come. The next US administration will inherit a complex and rapidly evolving geopolitical landscape. Effectively addressing the China challenge will require a nuanced understanding of its intricacies. It will demand a bipartisan commitment to developing a comprehensive and sustainable strategy. President Biden has sought a bipartisan approach to China. He recognizes the need for a united front, given China's growing global influence. Biden has maintained tariffs on Chinese goods, a policy initiated by the previous administration. He has also sought to rally allies in Europe and Asia to counter China's assertive trade practices and human rights record. This approach has garnered some support from both Democrats and Republicans. There is a growing consensus in Washington that China poses a serious challenge to US interests and values. This shared concern has allowed for a degree of cooperation on certain China-related policies, such as increased investment in US technological competitiveness and strengthening alliances in the Indo-Pacific region. However, this bipartisan consensus remains fragile. Differences remain on the best approach to address China's rise. Some favor a more confrontational approach, advocating for greater economic decoupling and military buildup. Others prefer a more conciliatory approach, emphasizing diplomacy and engagement. The Biden administration will need to carefully navigate these differing viewpoints to maintain a united front on China. This will require clear communication of its strategy and a willingness to compromise with the opposing party. Failure to do so risks undermining the bipartisan support for a tough stance on China, potentially jeopardizing US interests in the long run. Despite some bipartisan cooperation, partisan divisions on China persist. Republicans often accuse the Biden administration of being too soft on China. They point to the administration's emphasis on diplomacy and its reluctance to engage in direct military confrontation. They argue that this approach emboldens China and undermines US credibility on the world stage. The Democratic ticket has pushed back against these criticisms. They argue that their approach is rooted in a realistic assessment of US interests and the complexities of managing a great power relationship. They emphasize the need for strategic patience and the importance of working with allies to counter China's influence. These partisan disagreements reflect deeper ideological divides on the role of the US in the world. Republicans generally favor a more assertive and unilateralist foreign policy. Democrats tend to prefer a more multilateral and diplomacy-focused approach. These differing worldviews shape their respective stances on China and make it challenging to find common ground. The lack of a nuanced and informed public debate on China further exacerbates these partisan divisions. Without a clear understanding of the complexities of the issue, voters are more susceptible to simplistic narratives and partisan rhetoric. This makes it more challenging for policymakers to pursue policies that are in the best long-term interests of the United States.